Welcome to Simply Sleepy. I'm Alexander, and I will be reading tonight's story. Let's begin with a moment just for you. Make sure you're tucked in, warm and still. Close your eyes gently and take a slow, deep breath in and a long, easy breath out. Let your shoulders fall. Let your chest relax. Let go of the day behind you. Because tonight, your heart is going to be wrapped in something gentle. A true story, one that really happened. A story about kindness, given freely, and a quiet power of a man who asked for nothing in return. Tonight, we drift into the life of a man named Larry Stewart, the man the world would one day call the Secret Santa. In the soft hush of a Kansas City winter, when the world held its breath beneath a veil of snow, and the sky stretched wide and pale like frosted glass, the city moved slower, its heartbeat softened by the chill. Streetlights glowed dim and sleepy, casting golden halos across rooftops, while long, icy shadows spilled from parked cars and bare-limbed trees. It was the kind of cold that sank into your bones, not just sharp, but heavy, the kind of cold that made you curl your fingers in your coat sleeves, untuck your chin deep into your scarf. And through this wintry quiet, down cracked sidewalks, lined with old brick buildings and frozen gutters, walked a man you might have missed unless you were really paying attention. His name was Larry Stewart, but no one knew that, not yet. His steps were steady, but unhurried, the rhythm of someone with a destination, but no urgency to get there. His coat was long and woolen, worn smooth at the elbows, buttoned tight against the wind. He wore a cap pulled low over his silver hair, and gloves that had seen too many seasons. He past shuttered storefronts and fogged up bus windows, his reflection ghosting in panes of glass. As he walked, no one turned their head, no one stared. To the eye, he was unremarkable, a quiet man in an ordinary coat, a face blurred by the breath of winter. But beneath that coat, deep in the pockets, lined with flannel and threadbare memories, Larry carried something far warmer than wool, something that didn't rattle like keys or jingle like loose change. No, what Larry carried was softer, weightless, and yet heavy with meaning. It was kindness, folded neatly, crisp, silent. $100 bills, stacked flat like pressed leaves, ready to fall into someone's hands, like a small personal miracle. The wind curled around him as he turned onto another block, his breath drifting ahead like a signal fire. Sidewalk salt crunched beneath his shoes. His fingers gripped the edge of one bill in his pocket, not out of hesitation, but reverence. This was not just money. It was memory. It was intention. It was hope in a fragile wrapper. He wasn't out shopping. He wasn't meeting anyone. He didn't have a list. He didn't need one. Because Larry wasn't looking for gifts that day. He wasn't looking for decorations or holiday cheer. He wasn't looking for anything at all. He was out to be the gift, to offer a glimmer of grace, to step into someone's ordinary moment and quietly change it forever. To strangers, he was just another passerby, tall, quiet, a little hunched from the weight of age or time, the sort of man you might share a sidewalk with and never think twice about. And that was exactly how he wanted it. No praise, no photos, no crowds gathering to point or ask or document. Larry didn't need anyone to remember his face. He only wanted them to remember the feeling, that warmth, that breath-catching surprise when a hand reached out from the cold and gave them something they hadn't expected, a moment of dignity, a whisper of worth, a reminder that they mattered. He moved like a winter shadow, slipping from corner to corner, his footsteps fading as fast as they came, leaving behind no footprints, but the ones he etched into hearts. But it hadn't always been this way. Larry Stewart hadn't always been the one giving. In fact, once upon a bitter winter, he was the one on the receiving end, though he'd never expected to be. It was 1979, the year that cracked him open. Just a few days before Christmas, with lights twinkling in windows and holiday songs echoing from store speakers, Larry found himself standing on the edge of collapse. He had just lost his job. Again, not for anything he'd done wrong. No misconduct, no mistakes. Just the cruel indifference of business, delivered cold and impersonal, like the season itself. A pink slip, a handshake, and a door swinging shut behind him. There was no backup plan, no severance, no family to fall back on. Just the wind, the silence, and the terrifying realization that he didn't even have enough to buy his next meal. Larry wandered the streets like a ghost in his own life. His breath steamed in the air. Storefronts glowed with garlands, and cheerful shoppers bustled past him. Bags full, hands warm, lives intact, and there he was, empty pockets, empty stomach, and a growing hollowness in his chest that felt too deep to name. Eventually, his steps carried him toward a small diner, tucked between brick buildings. The sign buzzed faintly above the door, and the windows were fogged with warmth. He pushed the door open, and a bell jingled, a sound so familiar, so normal, it almost made his eyes sting. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of bacon grease, butter on toast, and coffee brewed a little too strong. He slid into a seat at the counter, didn't remove his coat, didn't open a menu, just sat there, trying to gather the shreds of his pride, while staring down at a laminated list of things he couldn't afford. He knew he had no money, not even enough for a cup of black coffee, but he sat anyway, because the booth was warm, and the world outside was not. Then, a gentle voice, not rushed, not demanding, just calm, like the sound of a match being struck in the dark. You look like you could use a hot meal. Larry looked up. It was the restaurant owner. No apron, no name tag, just a man with kind eyes and the instincts of someone who knew the look of quiet desperation when he saw it. He didn't ask questions, didn't wait for explanations. He simply turned around, poured a cup of coffee, and placed it gently in front of Larry. A moment later came a plate, 2 eggs, hash browns, bacon crisp on the edges, and a slice of toast that steamed in the air. No bill, no receipt, no discussion, just a nod. He managed a thank you, his voice thin and cracking with the weight of everything unspoken. And in that moment, as he sat with trembling hands and a heart too full to swallow, something shifted. The food filled his stomach, but it was the gesture that filled something far deeper. It wasn't just kindness, it was salvation. A reminder that even when the world felt merciless, there were still people willing to be gentle. And right then, over coffee and eggs, Larry made himself a silent vow. If he ever got the chance, if life gave him even the smallest measure of abundance, he would pay that moment forward. Not once, not twice, but for the rest of his days. And he meant it, because a stranger had seen him, fed him, respected him, without expecting anything in return. And Larry would never forget what that felt like. Not ever. Seasons turned, jobs came and went. But Larry didn't let go of that vow. Not for a second. Bit by bit, he clawed his way back. He found work, first small, then steady. He kept his head down, showed up on time, said yes to the hard jobs, no to the shortcuts. And eventually, through persistence and grace, he found his footing. He worked in cable television, invested smartly, built a small fortune over time, but never wore it like a badge. He didn't chase the spotlight. He didn't buy the biggest house or flash his success, because Larry wasn't building a life for show. He was building a life for purpose. And though the world outside may have seen just another man in a coat, Larry never forgot the warmth of that diner, the free meal, the man who had asked for nothing and given everything. That moment became his compass, his quiet fire. And so, he made himself a promise, one that would become a mission. Every Christmas, while others unwrapped gifts under glowing trees, he would go out into the world and give, with no strings attached, no press releases, no television crews, no hashtags, just cash, compassion, and a quiet smile. He became a one-man movement, a secret guardian of holiday grace. He'd walk into laundromats where parents folded worn shirts and counted quarters, and slip a bill into an unattended coat pocket, never seen, never known. He'd stop by gas stations where tired clerks rub their eyes under fluorescent lights, and quietly place a folded note into their hand. He'd spot single mothers at the back of grocery store lines, comparing coupons, watching every cent, and without saying a word, he'd lean in gently and offer a bill, press between two fingers, and a soft, understanding smile. He saw no thanks. He offered no explanation. Sometimes he'd vanish before they could even speak, sitting on worn bus stop benches, hands trembling with age, eyes glazed with quiet loneliness, and gave them something to remind them they hadn't been forgotten. And if someone stood at a register, counting change for a meal they couldn't quite afford, Larry would step in, place a $100 bill gently into their palm, and whisper, "This is for you. You're loved. Pass it on when you can." Then he'd walk away. No name, no credit, just a moment of light, left glowing in the heart of a stranger. No fanfare, no spotlight, no one ever knew his name. They just called him Secret Santa, because that's how he wanted it. No attention, no thanks. Just the raw, beautiful act of helping someone breathe easier, even for one day. $3 million in secret. $100 at a time. One act of grace after another. And when people would ask him, through their tears, their shock, why, he'd say, "This is for you. You're loved. Pass it on when you can." Then, quietly, he'd vanish into the crowd, like a whisper in the wind. For Larry, this wasn't charity, it was connection. It was the chance to remind someone that they mattered, that they were seen, that they weren't alone. And he did it again and again, winter after winter. A gentle legacy, written not in headlines, but in hearts. A dreamer, Let that truth settle in your chest like a lullaby. That one man, just one, can leave behind a trail of kindness so bright it lights the path for thousands. Let that comfort you now as your breath slows and your thoughts begin to drift. Like snowflakes through a quiet sky, you are safe, you are seen, you are enough. And somewhere in the soft spaces of this world, there are people, maybe even you, carrying on Larry's gentle mission. Good night, and may your dreams be generous.